Alright, so this is going to be my first review that I've done in a while. This is also the first Raw I've watched in a while. So, I don't know a lot of the back stuff. I know a little bit. I read a couple of things, to try to catch up on things from where they had been to where they are now. So, I know a little bit, but not all that much. So, this review is pretty much just going to be based upon what I saw today. And since I really can't talk about the progression of the story that much because I really don't know too much, what I do know I will talk about, but in other aspects I won't be able to. So I might be a little bit generous, I guess the word is, when I grade this show. But I'll go ahead and get through that, and then I'll make a judgment. But my point is, if there's anything that I should know that I, don't know, let me know. If I'm talking about something and there's something that I should know about it, just leave a comment about it down below or make a video response or something so I can be informed, please. Thank you. Okay, so the first segment was the cutting edge. Edge came back. Don't know how many times he's been back in the last year and a half, but it was cool to see him on TV. He was interviewing Daniel Bryan and whatnot, and this is typical WWE kind of stuff. This isn't gonna go as it seems it's gonna go, to the average viewer. If you really know the show, you know that there's gonna be some kind of interference or something's gonna happen, and of course it did. Triple H comes out and talks about how guys like Cena and these guys, he said they couldn't hack it, and they hacked it. But Edge, he was nothing. You couldn't hack shit. You dime neck or whatever he called him, and you had him basically dissing on Daniel Bryan and all this shit, and inevitably a match is booked for the main event, which would be Dean Ambrose with Shield in his corner versus Daniel Bryan with Big Show in his corner, who just previously, I guess, knocked him out the previous week. I guess Big Show is in this thing where he's broke and he needs the money and he's going to do whatever they say or else they're going to fire him type of thing. This is pretty interesting. It's just, stacking more odds against Daniel Bryan, which inevitably will get more people behind him. It's going to get him more over. And the more odds that he conquers when he does go over, it's going to be something good. So, and at the same token, this also set up something for the main event of the evening. So, overall, this is a good segment. Now, real quick, before I move on, I take back what I just said. It was a good segment, but I do have, it is a good segment, but I have a gripe with the segment. My whole gripe is why did Christian get beat down? I could see, if they were trying to implicate that there was going to be a match with Edge versus Triple H, but he's not medically cleared to wrestle. So, I really don't see where this is going. Is Christian going to get some kind of run as a face, and are big things in his future at this late in his career? Like I said, I haven't watched, but it was just kind of weird. You could say, okay, they did it just, to get under Edge's skin, because for this and that or whatever, but really? He was supposed to interview Randy Orton, I guess, and he ended up interviewing Daniel Bryan because he didn't want to interview Randy Orton. So this was the payback. But unless he, gets in the ring, then this was all for nothing. I don't know. So the man that, Triple H says never drew a dime is not going to get back in the ring. I'm not going to say he did or didn't draw a dime, but he isn't going to get back in the ring. He's medically not cleared. So, it was a great segment. It really was a good segment. It set up for the main event. It helped put over Daniel Bryan a little bit more, but at the same time, it's implicating something that's just, it's not going to happen. And it's like, what the fuck? Really? Why bother? And then it goes even further in the next segment, because the next segment is, Edge in the back in Triple H's face saying, he wished he was medically clear because he wants a match against him. So it's just like, it's not gonna happen. And if it does happen, Edge is a fucking idiot, and WWE is not gonna clear it. Where are they gonna do it? In a parking lot across the street from the arena somewhere? I mean, no. So WWE, no, come on, really, really, please don't even tease this kind of stuff. He's a great competitor, and I would like to see him come back, but it's not gonna happen. So do not tease this. This is almost as bad as teasing John Cena turning heel. Okay, so the next match, with Michael McGillicuddy, wait a minute, no, that's not his name now, is it? It's Curtis Axel. That's his name now, Curtis Axel. Curtis Axel versus, who's the IC champion, versus Kofi Kingston. Now, Curtis Axel is being backed by Paul Heyman, and Paul Heyman is feuding with CM Punk, and I found this out on this show because they were talking about it. So I guess there's some kind of match. If somebody could detail me about how all this happened, how Heyman got away from Punk and all this. I mean, if somebody can detail me into the situation and how all this went down, I would be greatly appreciated. Okay, but anyways, you have the match, Kofi Kingston versus Curtis Axel, which Curtis Axel gets disqualified. I mean, yeah, he beat Kofi down. Kofi eventually hit Trouble in Paradise on him, so he got the upper hand. So this did nothing for Kofi in the sense that he's never going to be anybody in the company, never going to push him. And it really did nothing for Curtis and Heyman, because you have these two guys who are going against Punk at Night of Champions, and Curtis is losing matches. So they don't even look strong going into the pay-per-view. So maybe it's just a smart mark in me. Like, I enjoyed the match. I enjoy wrestling matches. It wasn't the greatest match in the world, but it was a decent match for the length that it was. It could have been longer for as long as the show is now, but that's another story. It's just, once again, more the smart mark in me. But my point, you want to build as much momentum as possible for people, especially when you're going into a big event like this. And this just basically says that, okay, we're going to have Punk go in and bury this team, because they're not doing anything to make them look powerful. And if they've done things to make them look powerful, point them out to me. I just haven't seen them. Okay, so the next segment announces a match. We're going to have the match between Randy Orton and the returning Goldust, to avenge his brother, who was a heel, and we have Goldust as a face. This can inevitably turn Cody face to give him a face run. This can be something good, but I don't know if that's going to happen. That's just what I'm seeing here. But they announced the match. Cody got fired, I guess, the previous week or whatever, and now if Goldust wins, his brother gets his job back. So they're just, building for this match later on in the night, which was good. Okay, so now we cut back to the whole Paul Heyman thing real quick. He slips and falls in the back on something wet or whatever, just trying to get out of the match. It's apparent. There's just, I guess you have to fill 3 hours of time, so we're just gonna, do all this just to make Heyman and Axel look weaker. Sorry, smart mark of me. Apologize. Continue on. So in the next segment, they cut back to the previous Monday. In the storyline, Big Show is broke, and he has to do what, Triple H says and all this, and he knocks out Daniel Bryan and all this stuff. So just further, once again, adding more obstacles for Daniel Bryan to overcome, which is good. And for the fact that they're playing him as this face that doesn't want to really do this stuff, I think that's good too. It might inevitably turn him heel, but that's fine. I have no problem booing or cheering for him. I respect him either way. But once again, it's still helping further push Daniel Bryan, because it's giving him more obstacles to jump over, more hurdles to jump, I should say, however you want to put it. You have Booker T talking to Big Show backstage, and trying to give him this, you're a man, and blah blah blah, and just trying to make him feel better. Just try to guide him on the right path to do the right thing, type of thing. And it did it. This segment did its job. You know, once again, it's helping promote for the Daniel Bryan match, and it's, you know, also telling a story with the Big Show. You know, it's kind of, you know, digging into the psychology aspect of things. You know, Big Show's head's really messed up, and it's just telling that story. So they did a good job here with this. So they cut to this video package for the Wyatt family, which is something I hadn't seen before yet. Brody Lee is in this faction. He's a indie wrestler that I like. He's in WWE now, which is really cool. I like this faction. I said this in my previous video I put up the other day. I think WWE has gotten too faction heavy. There's just way too many factions, but I like the gimmick of this faction. This is cool. And Brody Lee's gimmick really hasn't changed. It's the same, really. I mean, he looks the same and everything. So, I mean, I'm interested to see where this goes. But I'm just interested in knowing if, you know, WWE is mad at Ziggler. Because, not to say Ziggler got entirely buried. I mean, this match against Bray Wyatt was a good match. This was a really good match. I enjoyed this match. It was very good. Ziggler lost. He didn't look horrible. He got a lot of moves in. You know, he got some spots. You know, he did his thing. He lost. And I think that's my only gripe. You know, I don't know how long these guys have been in the WWE, this faction, the Wyatt family. But Ziggler's been there a while, so why use a guy that you just had as World Heavyweight Champion recently as a jobber for these guys? And if there's some kind of backstory to this, where there's a storyline involved that I don't know about, please tell me, because if there is, you know, then I've got this whole thing figured out wrong. But, you know, otherwise, I just don't see why Ziggler did the job. The match was great, though. It was a great match. You know, one thing I'll say about the Ziggler Wyatt segment, if you have a 3-hour show, I mean, I'm not going to say the match was, well, it was short. It could have been longer. But Ziggler didn't even have an entrance. I mean, that's just something I should note. You know, and this will sound stupid to some people, but to me it's important that the guys have entrances that you can see on TV, because it's part of their character. It helps introduce their character when they come out. You know, if that's like basically saying, okay, when the guys come out, let's just not give them any music or anything at all. You know, and that's basically what they're doing whenever they cut someone's entrance off of TV. So, I mean, I don't know, it's just a personal gripe. Sorry. So then we get another video package for the Goldust Randy Orton match coming up, which was good. Helping further promote it, which if you were just tuning into the show and you didn't see the advertisement prior promoting the match, you've seen this one, which is good. So they're continuously promoting further matches through the night. Now, the next segment, once again, just goes back to the whole entire Curtis Axel, Paul Heyman thing with CM Punk at Night of Champions. You know, you have Paul Heyman comes out with his own doctor. You don't want to see the WWE physician and all this shit. But he has to see him anyway. You know, they're in the ring. You know, he's saying, oh, I have a torn ACL meniscus, all this bullshit. You know, the new Raw GM, who I have no idea who it is, someone inform me who that is, please, because I have no idea, comes out and basically says, okay, but the only way you're going to get out of the match is if our WWE in-house doctor says that you're out of the match. And he says that he's fine, nothing's wrong, the match is still on, you know, blah, 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 blah. You know, Heyman's pissed off. The only thing that saved this segment was the fact that CM Punk came out with the candlestick and beat down the doctor. Heyman ran for the hills. You know, there's... For having three, and I'll talk about this more on another video in a little bit at the end of this video maybe, but for having a 3-hour show going on now, between the matches thus far being short and a variety of other things that I could probably talk about that I can't really think of right now, but I'm pretty sure I can if I sat down and wrote them down. Why the hell? Why isn't there just more storyline emphasis? You know, having these multiple segments to just further bury this team going into this match against Punk does nothing for the team, and it's just a waste of airtime. You know, they could be running some other storyline. You have 3 hours. You can run a lot more than you could before. You know, and as good as the show was at its points, because I really thought this was a good show, regardless of what I've said so far, people, this was a good show. I actually enjoyed it. Regardless of the smart mark things I've said thus far, the show was good thus far. But to me, by the time I was done watching Raw, it seemed like I had watched a 2-hour show in 3 hours. That's really what it felt like. There was just so much filler stuff building up for certain things, and a couple of things that just weren't necessary. And they had these matches that were just so short. They could have lengthened the matches, and they could have put other storylines on the card, that aren't written in now to actually fill up the whole 3-hour block. But because they didn't, and they did it the way they did it, to me, it just felt like it was a 2-hour show written for a 2-hour program that is now 3 hours. So, I don't know. If this has been like this for a while, I'm not sure how long they've been running 3 hours. I know it's been obviously more than just this episode. Maybe they've done better in other episodes with this, but they could have did so much more than what they did with all the time they had. Okay, but moving on to the next thing, getting off of that whole thing, you have a package segment, whatever you want to call it, promoting the match between Dean Ambrose and Daniel Bryan for the end of the night, which is good. Once again, if you didn't see the promotion earlier for the match, you've seen it now. You're just tuning in, you've seen it. So, once again, just further promoting the match for the main event of the night, which is good. Now, in the next segment, there was a match announced, which I guess was already known. I just didn't know about it because it's the first Raw that I've seen, between Brie Bella, Naomi, Natalya, and the champ AJ Lee in a 4-way at Night of Champions. And from things that I've read and a couple of things that I have seen, because I haven't actually seen a full show until this week, from what I've seen in a couple of clips and things I've read, they've improved the Divas division. And you had AJ Lee at ringside for a match here. It was a 3-on-3 match involving the 3 other competitors in the 4-way for the title, teaming to face 3 other girls. I forget the people in their team. Forgive me, I just didn't write it down. I don't know why I didn't. Natalya wins with the sharpshooter. It just helps further promote for this match on Sunday, making these 3 girls that have to face each other on Sunday work as a cohesive unit. Seeing if they don't destroy each other type of thing. It was a decent match too. It wasn't a really bad match. It was short. It could have been longer, but it was definitely way better than a lot of the matches that I've seen in the past. From the year and a half that I haven't been watching prior a couple of years. This definitely wasn't that bad. Once again promoting for Sunday, so AJ Lee doing some commentary. It was enjoyable. I liked it. So the next thing that what happened, well, did happen. Okay. R-Truth versus the World Heavyweight Champion Alberto Del Rio. Of course, Del Rio's going to win. I always thought that R-Truth wasn't allowed in Canada. Since when is he allowed back? I'm just curious. Maybe I'm thinking of something else, but I'm pretty sure he wasn't allowed in Canada. And this Raw was in Canada, wasn't pay-per-view. Pay-per-view Raw? No. Hey, we have the Raw pay-per-view. No, I'm just kidding. But the match itself was good. It was, once again, it was short. It wasn't the most technical match I've ever seen, but it was still a good match. I enjoyed the match. Cole brings up the match during this match that Del Rio's going to have with Rob Van Dam at Night of Champions. Rob Van Dam back in WWE, I don't know what I really think about that. He's not going to win the title, obviously. There'd be no point in giving him the title. If he wins the title, it'd be for nothing at his age. Just using him to put over Del Rio would be a good thing. Hopefully he doesn't win the title at Night of Champions. Granted, I respect RVD, I do, but I just don't want to see him being a title holder. When Del Rio's a young guy that, really needs the push, that deserves it. RVD, you've already done it all. I just hope that WWE doesn't do the stupid thing and put RVD over at Night of Champions. The product has gotten better from what I've seen, and things I've read. So I highly doubt they'll do that. Hopefully they will do the smart thing. But point is, Cole announced the match was good. I didn't know the match was going to happen until now, but this is the first Raw I've seen fully in a long time. So I know the match is going to happen. So I don't know how long it's been announced that it's going to go down. but at least I know going into Sunday because I do plan on getting the pay-per-view. Now, they also announced after this that during the pre-show for Night of Champions there's going to be a number one contentionship between 5 different tag teams to be the number one contender to face the tag champions at the pay-per-view Night of Champions. I don't want to say that this is a real bad idea to have the number one contendership match. I just think it should have been on the Night of Champions card itself, not in the pre-show, and then just have the match itself for the titles at the next pay-per-view or something. You know, you're basically saying that whoever wins the match is basically going to lose against the champions. Even though, you know, they're still building, and they did something that we know about that's announcing a match. Maybe they could have did this on a Raw or a SmackDown, or they said did it at the pay-per-view and then had the match at the next pay-per-view for the actual tag team titles to be defended. You know, something of that nature. You know, but regardless, at least they announced that it was going to happen. It's something else, once again, that I know about Night of Champions, which is good. Considering it's the first Raw I've seen in a long time, at least I know a lot about what's going to happen at Night of Champions thus far. Once again, they promote the match between Goldust and Randy Orton coming up later on in the night, and then after that, with no TV entrance once again, which bugs me because it really tells part of the character and who they are. Damian Sandow, the Money in the Briefcase bank holder, he cuts a promo, and he's interrupted by The Miz. They're about to have a match. This crowd, I mean, this match wasn't the greatest match, obviously. The crowd didn't care about the match. They were chanting all kinds of shit. You know, this was a very live crowd tonight. And that's one thing I haven't said about any other matches or anything else on the card. This was a live crowd. You know, regardless of what they were saying. You know, and the best thing of the whole match, and this really made the thing, is the match really wasn't anything fantastic. It wasn't that long. The Miz loses because Van Dango comes out, and the crowd just went fucking nuts. Like, it was fucking great. Everyone's, you know, doing the Van Dango and all this shit and singing the song or whatever. It was fucking great. You know, it really made the segment. You know, I don't know who this. I kind of know who this guy is, but I really don't. But from what I've seen thus far, this is a character. This is freaking entertaining. That's what I'm talking about. Also, I want to note the Miz is a face. Someone tell me when this happened. Apparently, he's not doing well as one. That's apparent when nobody even cared that he was in the match. So then we get a Goldust backstage segment with Goldust actually talking. Triple H, of course, has to interfere, put his 2 cents in. You know, blah, 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 blah. You know, Triple H starts talking about, you know, Cody Rhodes, how he got fired because he lost to Randy Orton the previous week. You know, and all this stuff. Just furthering, you know, this storyline, which is good. You know, and then, of course, you have to have the good old Robinator, the birth child Terminator and RoboCop cut a promo. Oh, boy. Well, I should say he had the match, then the promo, because he cut the promo after the match, after he beat Goldust, which is probably the right decision here. This match was good. For a guy who hasn't wrestled in like 3 years, this is a good match. I enjoyed it. It was entertaining. You had the right decision being made here because of the simple fact that if you bring back Rhodes too soon, it takes away from the value of this. It gets people to feel more sorry for him. He comes back as the babyface. It's just, from what I could see, this is going to turn out lovely for Cody Rhodes. It's just going to end up being a good thing, you know, giving him a fresh start. So I'm not going to complain about the segment. It was a good match. It served its purpose. It really did do the right thing. You know, you can even have, like I said in a previous video I made yesterday, you can have Goldust and Cody Rhodes come back and take on the corporation, you know, along with Daniel Bryan, or be in some sort of involvement of some kind to mess up the whole faction or whatever. You know, do something just to get him over as a face, because his heel run is dead. It did nothing for him. It's buried. It's time to move onward. Then we have a segment with Goldust backstage, Stephanie, you know, basically, you know, making him more upset than he already is, you know, blah, 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 furthering the story, which once again is good, you know, further just continuing this to further build it more, just to give it more emphasis by the time we get to the end. For the next match, we get Ryback versus RVD. Their tights look the same. It's kind of weird. RVD wins via disqualification. Ryback uses the post to drive RVD's nuts into it. Very pleasant. The match was short. I don't see what the purpose of this was. I mean, if somebody wants to explain if they have some kind of beef or some kind that I just don't know about, there's something I'm missing, that there was actually a point to this because of something that had happened already, please let me know, because right now I'm just really confused. Now for the next segment, you have Stephanie McMahon backstage with the Big Show. And the Big Show is now not allowed to even touch the Shield, because you have the Shield in Dean Ambrose's corner when he's facing Daniel Bryan tonight. Daniel Bryan has Big Show who's just going to be sitting in a chair, can't do a goddamn thing. So just once again stacking more odds against Daniel Bryan, which makes him look stronger. He's got to fight through more obstacles, which is good. Further, pushing along the storyline, preparing it, inevitably for the point where he actually does win later on down the line. So the match, Dean Ambrose versus Daniel Bryan. In my opinion, this was a pay-per-view quality match on TV. This was a good match. This was a really good match. It wasn't a great match, but it was a really good match. It was a really solid match. It was the only match on the whole card that actually went it didn't go a really long amount of time, but it went a decent amount of time to where at least it wasn't 5 minutes. And the match was just really good. It told a really good in-ring story. It was just a really good, solid match. They did a good job of just going out there and really putting on an incredible match. That was really entertaining. I haven't watched wrestling in a while. Maybe it's just me just having not have been able to watch for a while and seeing a match that's to some people might be decent because they've been watching this whole time and have seen something a lot better in the past year and a half. I haven't seen anything in a while, so it's like, okay, it's like, he just thinks it's real good because he hasn't seen it in a while. It might be something like that, but this was just a real good match to me. I just enjoyed the match. You have Daniel Bryan inevitably get jumped after the match by the Shield. The Big Show really can't do anything. He looks like he's going to, but he doesn't. Daniel Bryan, he gets jumped. Randy Orton gives an RKO to Bryan. You have Triple H coming out with Stephanie. They want, Big Show to go out and pick him up now and try to punch him again. And he doesn't want to do it. He causes the distraction. Then Bryan takes out Orton. That's the end of the show. So, let's go ahead and talk about the official grade of this show. This was a good show. They announced everything they needed to announce for the pay-per-view. They built during the show for the show, which was great in terms of, the matches. You had Daniel Bryan versus Dean Ambrose booked at the beginning. We knew Goldust versus Randy Orton was going to happen. There was just every division basically got a piece of the show, which was good. They promoted a little bit of everything. Now, I still think that we got 2 hours worth of show in 3 hours, and to me the show should be 2 hours. 3 hours is a little much if you can't fill all that time. And that's just a little long anyway. But really, it felt like a 2 hour show was in 3 hours. There were some things that I could have dealt without, but overall, it was a good show. I already went through the various things that I thought about the segments, so I'm not going to go back and repeat any of that stuff. It was a decent show. I really enjoyed it. There's not much more I could really complain about. The product has gotten better. I had my gripes when I was doing this review, obviously. There are things that I don't like about it. But when I sit back and look at the overall show and whether I enjoyed it or not, I really did. And and that's what counts at the end of the day. The product is way better than it has been, at least for me. Maybe not everyone will agree, but I think the product has gotten way better than it was a year and a half ago. So I'm going to rate this show. This, like I said, this could be me being nice because I haven't seen wrestling in a while. I've said this earlier in the video. I'm going to go ahead and give this show a A- rating. I think that's fair. I'm going to give it an A-. The only reason I'm giving it an A- is because some of the stuff on the show wasn't necessary. They weren't needed for the go-home show. That stuff could have been on any of the other Raws. You could have brought back Santino on another Raw, even though that was a great segment, which I forgot to mention. Santino came back and wrestled Antonio Cesaro, I guess his name is. I don't know much about him. First time I ever seen him. So you have that match, and then you have the whole thing with the whole Van Dago thing when Miz was in his match, which did nothing building for the pay-per-view. So there was certain things they could have did without, but it didn't really hurt the show that much because they did a lot for the go home show. They did a good job building for the pay-per-view in the go home show, and the show itself was still a good show on top of that. So I think A- is a fair rating. Just for those couple of things, it's not going to get the solid A. I'm not going to knock any points for them putting 2 hours worth of stuff into a 3-hour block. That's something that they're going to have to work through with time. They have to get their time management better, and they'll be able to incorporate more stories eventually. So I'm not going to really give them a markdown because of that, but I do want them to improve on that, definitely. But yeah, A- is the grade. Leave your thoughts and your comments down below. Make a video response. Do something. Please be talkative. Don't just sit there and watch the video and don't say nothing. I don't care if you agree or disagree. Just be respectful. Let me know what you think. And that's it. Hit the subscribe button. You know what it is. I'll be back later on. My next video is going to be on a TNA Impact. That review is going to be up a little bit later. I won't be able to watch the show till Friday morning. And by then, after I'm done watching it, I'll have to make the review. It takes me about an hour or two to make the review. And then I'm going to put my annotations, if necessary, into the video, things like that. So that video might not be up until the weekend, maybe Saturday. I don't know enough to do a predictions video for Night of Champions because, I could say certain things that I've said in the video, about what I think should happen. I said a couple of things in my previous video, but I really don't have a predictions video prepared or plan on doing one just because I haven't been watching. So I don't know how they've been progressing with certain things, so I don't know where things are really going to go. I can only guess based upon the one show, so to me it's really not necessary to even bother. So next video will be a TNA video. I will watch Night of Champions that night. I'm going to watch that night, and I'm going to review it the next day. The review will be up on Monday. I might not put a Raw review up until Tuesday or Wednesday like I did with this one. It just depends on what my work schedule is and, my time management. I have to work on a couple of things, get a couple of things done. I'll get the video up by Wednesday, definitely. This is your boy, Lou Wrestling 2 101. You know what it is. Hit the subscribe button if you already have not. Peace.